Good evening and welcome to the February 20th, 2014 Conservation Commission meeting. Meeting is called to order at 7:13. Let's start with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Both Wynn Hilton and Bruce Fecteau called to say that they would be unable to attend the meeting this evening. And let's do a roll call across the table, starting with me, Drew Kiefaber.
Jeff Goldnoff.
Stephanie Koster.
Jessica Vasey Powell.
Dale Pike.
And since we have 2 members absent and 2 alternates in attendance, I would like to appoint both Jessica Vasey Powell and Stephanie Koster as voting members for our meeting this evening. Public comments, no public. Approval of minutes. I should say that we still, we don't have minutes to approve for any of these. I've been in contact. We had someone apply for the position. I've been in contact. We haven't quite ironed out all the details yet, but hopefully for our next meeting we'll actually have a minute taker. Next is the treasurer's report. Jeff, you emailed out all this information a couple days ago, or a little over a week ago?
A little over a week ago. I really don't have much to report. Are there any questions?
I didn't have anything. Hearing none, thank you, Jeff. Committee and subcommittee reports. Dale, anything from the town council?
Main topic was the, I don't know that it matters much for here, but the pedestrian bridge is not going to happen in there, but there is going to be safety changes to Main Street. So that was the main thing we discussed last night.
This is the proposed pedestrian bridge over 108 to the mills?
Yes, yeah. It had come in over bid, and so they went through a whole process. And that it's been a long process, but the bridge is not moving forward, and pedestrian safety changes are. So
okay.
That was the main thing. It was just last night that we met. So
yeah, thank you.
Does the town council talk at all about the possibility of a school, and at all about the development of the Carpenter's parcel?
We did not talk about, there were, during public comment, people made comments about the school, but
nothing
we tried.
Understood.
Contain it.
Yeah.
There is a school board.
Yeah, okay.
That would be a good place to take those comments. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. Next up is the chairman.
I have a subcommittee report.
Sure. Sorry.
There was a dam meeting, and there is a draft report of just based on basically bringing together the history of the issues regarding the dam, bringing together some of the right Pierce information. It's just kind of basically setting all of the stuff that we already know. And then there's a little bit about hydrology, but not that much new stuff. But they talked about a little bit about the model that they're using to model the water flow. And I would recommend people reading it because it's enlightening, and it talks about the concerns, the original reasons for why the dam was listed as hazard and then high hazard and of concern. Yeah. And I thought that was very interesting, so I'd recommend people reading that.
Is that available on the website?
Yep, on the town website.
And
I don't know where.
You don't know where? Okay.
It was on the front, but it might not, I don't know, yeah.
But probably if we, if they were to go to the town website and put in something on dam update
Draft,
report or
yeah,
whatever,
draft
dam
report,
draft,
yep.
okay. Excellent, thank you.
Maybe from the trail subcommittee?
Sure.
A very quick thing. Piscasset Glazel looks like it's used a lot, which is good to see. And people are using the connector trail. That's not quite done, but it was very usable this time of year, and you wouldn't know that it wasn't complete. And there is a large oak tree down across a portion of the trail. And it's not too bad to get around now, but it might not be a bad idea if we get anyone with ambition together to remove that, to try to get out there. It's kind of, it's off of a ledge, so it's not the simplest thing. It's, you know, one side is 15 feet in the air maybe, and the other side is on the ground.
Okay.
Where it crosses the trail is probably 5 feet in there. So.
Out of curiosity, is the Audubon Trail relatively flat? Is there a hill at all?
There's a hill, yep. It goes, when you cross over onto the Audubon property, you can stay to the left and you'd go on a pretty flat, and then it either goes out to the parking area eventually, or it goes deeper into the woods towards Follett's Brook, and it's kind of the hill that's right in the corner of the town part of the Piscasset Glazel property. If you take a right once you cross onto that land, it kind of switches back up the hill to the top of the hill, and then very gradually goes down to the back, and then when you come back towards 152, you go up a gradual rise, and you can stay on the snowmobile trail this time of year where there's less rise on the way back, or the trail kind of goes off to stone wall up and then back down again. So small hills though, they're not very
Yeah,
large.
it's not flat, but it's also not, you know,
Not
the
climbing.
trail was
Yeah.
intentionally laid out to be more sustainable, not susceptible to erosion, so the climbs really aren't particularly steep.
Right. I
And
think
did I see that there was something on the kiosk when I drove by recently? Does anyone know?
Yes, there is.
I think there is information on the kiosk there.
I don't know that they plowed that though, did they?
They do not,
Doesn't
yeah,
seem to
it
be
has
plowed
not
yet.
been plowed.
Piscasset has, I've been there 3 times recently, and it's been plowed each time. So.
Thank you, Public Works Department.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice place to go in the winter. It's a great snowshoe spot.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay, well, I do have a chainsaw, so maybe when the weather gets a little better,
Yeah.
I can get out there at some point, and I'd give you a yell before I headed out there.
That sounds good. I'm more than willing to help out.
Was that on Lowe's Loisel or on the
On the Piscasset Glazel part.
Yeah.
It's where the trail splits. If you take a left,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
once you go around the bend and start to go kind of northwest, that's kind of where it's across, right there.
Okay, great, thank you, Jeff. Chairman's report, the rose trimming letter. I sent out a draft of that, got some comments back, and we've sent it out. So we can cross that one off our list. We're done on that. Assuming we don't hear anything back. I don't, yeah, I'm not sure it made it or not. And I think one other thing, we did get a copy of the most recent plans for the proposed open space development at the Rockingham Country Club. I believe Diane Hardy mentioned that we were, gonna get a copy of the plans, so we do have a copy of the plans. If anyone would like to look at them, they're welcome to do so. Otherwise, we'll tuck them away in our file for that project. Yeah, does anyone have any additional information related to that?
We're just waiting on the update to the DES application concerning the looped water line.
Yeah, and I'm not sure we're gonna get one.
Yeah?
Because, I thought I sent this out, but maybe I did not. I think, someone from Gove Environmental Services contacted the appropriate folks at, Department of Environmental Services to ask about the drilling underneath the wetland.
Mm-hmm.
And in essence, there's no impact to the wetland because they'll be starting beyond the buffer on each side with the drilling and drilling underneath the wetland. And because there's no wetland impact, I don't think there's any wetland permitting required.
That makes sense. That wasn't, my initial understanding was that there was gonna be, you know, a couple hundred square feet or something of impact, not to the prime wetland, but to the either hydric A or hydric B wetland, but, I mean, it's probably in that in those site plans, but I do remember seeing those emails back and forth with DES, and they were saying that this is a, you know, reasonable way to do the drilling, and it's the least impact, and so forth.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so I mean, based on that and the fact that we haven't seen anything,
Yeah.
I think we're
You
probably not
don't
going
need
to.
one, yeah.
Cause I know for the other water line that we looked at, there was,
Macintosh.
yeah, for Macintosh, it was impact to the buffer,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
was, I think it was impact to the prime wetland buffer. 'Cause
Yes.
I think that's right.
I think that's right.
So we definitely got to look at it. I would think if there's any impact to the buffer that we would, either of the buffers we would see.
But it would be through Newmarket, not through the state. And
That's true.
we may not see that if it's been through the planning board at this point, I think. And
Right, if they didn't ask us for a comment. If they
not
didn't, if they didn't.
specifically, but in
Right.
general, like it was in those emails that were passed around and.
And that does, I mean, having the making the water supply a loop, I believe, was a request of the town and or
Yes.
planning department.
Yep.
And so it connects Lady Slipper Drive over to 108, which provides a level of redundancy as far as ability to get water to different portions of town, et cetera. So there's a public benefit associated with having that water line be a loop like that. So that's helpful. And then I guess still related to the golf course there, the wetland buffer markings. Jessica, you mind saying what you did there?
I looked at the information that Jeff sent, which is very helpful, and just commented to Diane, you know, at a personal level, of the one that I thought would work best. And in that case, my opinion was it's the actual like trail markers where there's some width to it, and the picture was brown, so it's maybe like that wide instead of the really narrow ones. And
Like, are they 3 inches?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And Stephanie had a good recommendation for what the text might be on there. It's something like no
Wet-
disturb buffer or.
Yeah, wetland buffer area, no cut
Yeah.
zone or
So that was, I
something
just
along
had
those
emailed
lines.
Diane as a suggestion for the planning board, and I think maybe you didn't, I don't know. I don't know if other people did, but that's where it went.
I mean, I made my suggestions to her, and I kind of suggested that I shouldn't be deciding, that the commission should talk about it and then make a suggestion to her. So I don't know if she's looking, and she said that's a good idea.
And at this point,
Right.
maybe they haven't, they
So I
may
don't
or
know
may
if
not
she's-
have decided on that, you know, deep level of detail. I know they had a meeting since in between
Right.
now and then, but they may still be looking for a recommendation. I don't know. So we should probably
Probably should
give them an
yeah.
official recommendation.
Yeah, at least to let her know that it was discussed in a meeting.
Yeah.
and
Sure.
This is kind of,
Yeah, so I mean, at least the information that I looked at,
Yeah.
to me, the carcinite markers looked like a reasonable compromise of providing
Yeah.
a relatively inexpensive, hopefully relatively easy to install, and somewhat unobtrusive marker that could be placed on the properties to demarc where the wetland buffer areas and no cut zones are. And that seemed like a reasonable way to do it.
I've installed a lot of them. They're pretty easy to install as long as it's not super rocky. And these are a wetland buffers, and we would like to look at it on a piece of paper and say it's right there, but I mean, it's still,
Right.
you know, if there's a rock right here, you move it over
Right.
a couple inches, and 6 inches or a foot.
Right.
And so that shouldn't be too difficult.
Okay, so it seems that we have a general consensus that carcinite markers would be our proposal. if the planning board were looking for a specific recommendation from the Conservation Commission. Is that correct?
Do we wanna be more specific about the trail
Ground
ones
and
versus
wetland
the
buffer.
thin ones, or the wording? I mean, it couldn't hurt to
Seemed
put
like she was
recommendation.
looking for more
Yeah,
specificity.
she was
Yeah,
looking for a
sure.
specific recommendation, yeah.
Sure.
I agree, I like that the trail ones were, I thought because they were brown, they were unobtrusive, but then, again, large enough to display information clearly.
Right.
Yep.
As opposed to the thinner ones.
Yeah, the thin, the Visalign, whatever they are, those things all come in bright colors, pretty
Oh, yeah.
much, so. I think I like the wider ones myself.
Okay.
They had a wetland buffer one on there, but didn't seem quite,
I didn't see that.
quite right.
Because a lot of the ones that I looked at had the like agency name on it as well, which didn't seem like.
And
I mean, I guess you could do a custom one without that, but
if you order them, they will cut off certain pieces, cause we get them and you know, there's a bunch of text on some of those, set ones for survey markers that we want, but we don't want just a little bit of it, so they
Right.
just actually cut it off of there before we get them.
okay.
So they come without it. Bernston does that. If you order them through Bernston, they do that. I don't think we ever ordered them directly from Carsonite. But the wetland buffer one didn't look quite like what we wanted.
Okay.
Anyway. Can't remember what it said, but it's heavily text on one side, had a long strip of text and like one word
Yeah.
on the other side. It kind of looked interesting.
Okay.
Do you know what it's specifically called? Is it wetland buffer? Is it a special wetland buffer for this project, or is it
Probably should just look on there.
Yeah.
and use whatever terminology they use?
I would think. I think they've been referring to it as like a no cut zone, but
Right,
I don't know.
in the wetland buffers, you are allowed to do some cutting.
right. So
So it's
the
a
actual
specific
buffer
no
extends
cut.
beyond that, but this is like a buffer that you can disturb extends beyond that, but this is a
Specific no
Yeah.
cut buffer.
So that was on lots 26 and 27, right?
there
At
were a couple
least.
others, but yeah.
So. It's hatched, but I'm not seeing what the,
Is it this, or is it this?
I think it's this one. I think it's the hatched part.
It's a line with a single dot. Did you find a legend?
Yeah, I'm looking this way, you wanna look
Yeah,
in that
legend above
direction?
you up front. Should be right here on this. I think that's this line type, right? The single dot.
Yes, yep.
So it's a 25-foot. Yeah, see, they're just calling it a 25-foot buffer.
It's a poorly drained wetlands.
Could look back at some of the reports and emails and so forth if we need to.
Maybe on sheet D8, maybe there'd be something.
I'm gonna hold that
Yep.
page so we keep that. D8.
Actually, might be GN1. Actually, because that's the enhanced.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I'm looking at sheet GN1.
Oh, well, there we go. What do they say from GN1? Note 2,
Oh, yeah, that's all
GN1.
they're saying.
Yeah, so that's this.
That's just to say the planting in the boat.
Yep.
It doesn't call anything. Flags to be set every 50 feet along no cut buffer.
There you go.
Yeah.
But where's the, they don't tell you what the no cut buffer is.
Well, but if we're gonna make a recommendation for wording on the signs, wording that says wetland buffer, no cut zone would be appropriate, is that correct? Okay, so, and if I remember, I thought that was the wording that you had kinda recommended.
That sounds right, yes.
Okay.
It seems like it might be appropriate to send a little note also saying if that's not demarcated on the site plans, and the site plans are the permanent record of everything, then perhaps that should be labeled on the site plans. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the hatched area just says it's an enhanced buffer planting area. It doesn't say that it's a specific no cut.
So how about, these are just topo lines. I was gonna say, what are these dashed, but
Yeah,
they're just
74,
topos.
76
Yeah.
contours.
Yeah. Okay. So Jessica, would you be willing to draft a quick note to
Sure.
Diane Hardy and the planning board?
Mm-hmm.
So Carcinite marker, trail marker with the words wetland buffer, no cut zone.
Yeah, and I guess they should.
Add the no cut zone to the plans if it's not there somewhere.
And then, I mean, if you wanted to be specific, you could ask them to add that to their note. 'Cause they're.
On GN1,
Yeah,
Add the no cut
landscaping and planning notes,
bit to
note
note.
2.
Or actually, on sheet GN1 under general notes, number 1, it says plaques to be set every 50 feet along no cut buffer.
Okay.
That's where they would add the note to say carcinite markers to be set every 50 feet along
Okay, okay.
buffer, including the wording no cut buffer zone or. Unless they do it a different way, but that's
Mhm.
where I would see it done.
Yes, what do you, it was called GN1?
It's
GN1,
yeah.
Okay.
yeah. And then general notes, note 1.
Okay.
I feel like I
Excellent.
should be able to comment on that because it's not really project related.
Sure. Sure.
It's just general educational information.
Yeah.
General information, yes.
Okay, the wetlands permit, I'm ready to move on. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. Wetlands permit for the 108 shoulder widening. I just drafted a short letter, that said that we reviewed it our last meeting. Appreciated that they were trying to deal with the invasives that were on the property, putting in culverts to enhance wildlife connectivity over the site and doing things on the sides to minimize wildlife access, if you will, over the road, and that we had no objections and sent that off, more or less as we had said at the past meeting. Any additional comments on that? Okay. Next up is the wetlands permit application for 252 Bay Road for a docking system. So the proposal is that at 252 Bay Road, which is close to the Newmarket Durham town line, there's a homeowner who has the wetlands application to put in a dock. In essence, there's a 10-foot section that will be fixed to the ground. There will be a ramp from their yard area that goes down to the 10-foot section that's fixed. The fixed portion, I should say, will be supported by 4 pilings. And then off the fixed portion, there'll be a 25-foot gangway that goes down to a 10-foot by 20-foot float. And at low tide, the float will be resting on the mud. and then at high tide, there'll be somewhere between like 3 and 4 feet of water. The homeowner is looking for access to the water, in essence. I think people have had a chance to kind of look at it. Does anyone have any additional comments or questions? Oh, I should say also the work to install the fixed portion as well as to install the docking system will be predominantly handled from a barge at, when the tide is sufficient. Okay, so hearing no comments, I would entertain a motion to have the chair draft a letter saying that the Conservation Commission has no objections to this wetlands permit application.
So moved.
Thank you, Dale. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. Excellent. Next item on the agenda is the easement stewardship monitoring. The last one that just needs to get finished up is the Silverman Schneier easement report. We had already, we'd gone out and looked at everything. Everything seemed to be fine. It's just a matter of finishing writing the report, and hopefully that should be done by the next meeting. One other thing I should mention under old business is Jeff Cantera, who is the owner of the New Roots Farm, has been in contact related to the property boundary marking. So we're in discussions there of trying to figure out how we get that done. So that's in process as well. Anyone else have anything else?
Do we need to do anything to approve the contract renewal, Southeast Land Trust?
Oh.
Thought we decided last time that
Yeah,
we didn't need to.
I don't think we do. Did we officially get that contract?
I know you sent something, but was that? I thought it was, but I thought it was like an amendment. Wasn't it like an amendment to the contract or something?
Is it to extend it? It'd be like an addendum, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to look at that again. We got that a while ago, and yeah. And it slipped my mind since then. Okay. It's a good question. Thank you. Anyone have anything else?
So this is sort of just a refreshing my memory, but for the Shanda Park, where they were is that we're waiting towards spring, and it's with Fred as to whether or not what the town is going to help with and what has to be funded by the Conservation Commission. Is that where that will rest for a while?
I think so.
Was it
yeah.
Fred who was going to talk to Steve Fournier or somebody else?
I thought you volunteered.
I thought you
last time.
volunteered.
Oh, okay. I'll have to talk to Steve.
It's on the
then.
action item list.
All right. But yeah, I think in general, given all the snow and all that's down there, it's not a great time to be trying to do any work down there.
Oh, I knew absolutely nobody was
Yeah.
going to work. I was just trying to figure out where it was,
Right.
because
Yeah.
it went, all of a sudden, before long, it was going to melt.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
or
Right.
like tomorrow and 50-degree weather on Saturday.
I think this will be the first time, and since I've lived here in '99, I don't remember that there's ever been ice into March at any
Oh, really?
appreciable time period.
Yeah.
Even, it's been an unusual
Yeah,
winter.
yeah,
Had very consistent snow cover since early December, maybe.
yeah.
Well, no, not really until
lost-
late December.
We had a storm before Thanksgiving, just after.
think we had one,
And
but
we
then
had
it
a gap of
kinda,
like 2
yeah,
weeks
then
we
it
didn't
then
have
it gapped
Whether
out.
you were in the woods or in the
Yeah.
open. Oh.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But certainly since basically Christmas, we've had snow cover
Yeah.
virtually continuous,
Yeah.
if not
I
continuous.
take continuous, yeah.
Yeah.
Good for the plants.
Good for the salamanders
Did
and
it,
frogs.
did it get cold enough to do anything to
Give me
the
other way to know
Adelgid?
not to come out.
I don't know.
To the what, Dale?
The
The ticks,
Adelgid.
did you ask about the ticks?
Oh,
No, the Adelgid.
Oh, the Adelgid. Is
That's
that?
a good question.
is
I
that
don't think
close
it
to
did
town?
quite get cold
Pretty good
enough.
town?
Well, when I was on the Sweet Trail, they showed, we saw it on the Sweet Trail.
Really? I didn't know
I've seen
that.
it around here too.
Okay.
Not a lot, and not like enough to kill a tree, but I've seen it
Yep.
present.
But it would be nice to
But it
knock
is
it back a
cold
little if
limited.
it was
Yeah,
Yeah.
cold enough.
exactly.
I know it's, no, I think it only got down to -10 or so. -12. So I don't know if that's cold
Is that
enough.
sort of the limit for
I thought it was
Adelgid?
close, it's close, yeah.
Yeah. Might be enough to not,
remember
if
what it
not
was.
eliminate, at least
Yeah, give it a shock.
yeah, at least if it, yeah, backs things off a little bit, that would be good. Okay, anything else? Should we roll through all the action item lists, or
Sure.
do we just have everyone read it and do their parts? Okay, clarify the marker needs, we already talked about that at New Roots Farm. Burning the invasives at Follett's Brook and Wigan Farm. I think we talked about this at our last meeting, and we said at this point we're gonna delay at least a year. And I think the ones at Follett's Brook, given how close they are into the trees and everything else, I would be very hesitant to try and burn most of
Mhm.
those. There's probably one pile we could get away with burning, but.
Yeah.
Is there some way that we can dispose of it in the spring after it melts? To get it out of there? Or are we just gonna leave it?
I mean, they're they're piles, and we're not supposed to transport them because they're invasives.
Well, you can transport them as long as they don't have viable fruit or parts, right? Or what type, I don't know what types of plants they are.
It also,
A lot
they're
of
pretty
roots, I
far in.
remember.
Lot
It
of,
would be, yeah, it's pretty
lot of
far, it would
autumn
be
olive.
like dragging,
Yeah,
they're huge piles.
yeah.
I mean,
There's
it
a
would
lot
not
out
be,
there.
I mean, one thing that we may consider is
They can-
covering it.
Is
I
that
know.
gated now?
Yeah.
So you can drive in there, the town can drive in there?
Well, it's, I wouldn't say it's gated, there's a Jersey barrier.
There's
Oh,
a
okay.
citizen barrier,
Yeah, I haven't been over there in a long time.
So it would require some hydraulics to move the
Right.
Jersey barrier to provide access.
There's so much in there, I don't think that leaving it is gonna.
It's not gonna
probably
make it any
seeds underneath the
worse.
piles anyways, yeah, so I don't
Yeah.
know that it would make it that much worse,
Yeah.
but I don't, that's just my opinion.
I hate to see everyone's hard work and be turned back into invasive plants. I wasn't there, but I assume
Well-
there's a lot
Well,
of
it
plants
wasn't
over there.
eradicated either, that's, I mean, there's
Yeah.
still a lot
Yeah.
more in there and.
Yeah.
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 Okay. The Conservation Commission meetings have been added to the town calendar. Thank you, Dale. Revise the Piscassic River Loisel trail map.
That's not the map, but it's on the list.
Yeah,
What is that one?
I might be able to help out with that. I've been getting more into GIS
Oh, yeah. It
lately,
just-
and I've been doing quite a bit of producing GIS maps. So
I mean,
I have the data too.
Yeah, I
so.
know. Either way, it's just trying to make something so that we can actually put it up on the kiosk. Or
Okay.
I was gonna say, or put it up on the website.
I think I might be interested in
Both.
trying to do some of that if I,
Okay.
because I've been messing around with LiDAR data. I could probably throw together a pretty nice topo of the area possibly, and it really, yeah. I'll report back next month and see where I'm at and if it seems viable. And on that note, what about that?
Yeah, I was
email
gonna say,
that
on a
I got from-
related topic, right, I sent out, information related to, cooperative extension project related to trying to map all the trails. And, yeah, I had expressed our interest in trying to do that.
Right.
So this was someone who works for New Hampshire Cooperative Extension trying to encourage people to get out and use conserved properties. Part of that is they're hoping to have sort of a centralized website that would have properties as well as trails on the properties to make for, ready access.
Right. It looked like they'd be interested in just, if we have a map, to just give it to them and they'd put it there, right?
Mhm.
Or,
Yes.
or incorporate it into their map.
Sounds like they're
But
also willing to
if we
help.
don't,
Yeah.
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they'd be willing to help generate those maps as well
But we've already collected the actual trail location
for that property
In
in
Wigan?
Wigan Farm.
Yeah.
and Wigan, yep.
Yeah,
So, yeah, like I said, I'd be more than happy to try to throw one together, and then we can always give it to them.
Yeah,
to
sure.
come up with something.
Yeah.
that way.
Sounds good. Then we have some stuff about Shanda Park that we've kind of already talked about. Refurbish the water removal signs. I'm not sure where that one is at.
Was that Bruce?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Basically, we need to get no back onto the signs because it's either faded or been removed for surface water removal.
It was faded.
It's faded, yeah.
Yeah, it's faded. Just red pigment did not last.
Yeah, yeah. Add links on the Conservation Commission website with references to invasive species presentation, nitrogen talks, and information. Plan a nitrogen mailer.
Is the town's website still under construction? Or are they,
It's different, it's
Done.
changed, but I'm not sure if it's fully fleshed out.
Yeah. Last I knew, I don't think the Conservation Commissioner information, other than our names, was there.
right, yeah, 'cause when I called you last time to look your phone number up.
And I think they're outdated too. That's all the
Some,
current
some of
people.
it could be, yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. Work with Ellen Schneier to organize a dam information session.
You know, I wanted to talk to you about this, because I did think about trying to do this, and I was wondering what the commission thinks about being a part. Given that this is such a divisive issue, do you think that we can give support to an information session without coming across as having chosen a side? And is this something that we should be involved with or not? Because it seems to raise a lot of personal feelings, and I don't know. I don't know if the public understands even that the research that's being done is a feasibility study, and so by maybe creating this information session, I don't know if they would find that alarming that I don't know, we're involved or not, I don't know. Because also I'm not sure, so like in an information session, the types of things I would imagine would be maybe having, you could have a fisheries person perhaps, you could have someone coming in from another town that has gone through this process, but those things all seem to maybe lean one way. I don't know if there's a way to, I'm not sure if we could there's not really an option that's out there to be like, and this is information how we keep the dam, because that's not, at this point, that's not an option. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever, so.
Oh, because
Because there is no option. I mean,
There
no one
is
has
no-
raised one, no one has suggested one that is a feasible option yet, so I don't know.
so you're saying
if
that we wouldn't be able to bring in anyone that
Like
might
both
present
sides.
something that is
Right.
a reason why it would be nice to keep it, because it would be kind of like, wouldn't make sense because it's not possible. But why talk about the boating opportunities and fishing opportunities if the dam were still there, because that's not an option?
Well, I just don't know if that's informational, I guess I thought of think of this information session as being an information session that is new stuff, not just kind of like,
Seems
not
like
just kind of like, we
what's-
still like recreation. I mean, that's kind of a given as opposed to I don't know.
I don't, my sense of, after observation of this, is there really, there are a lot of sort of emotions running on this thing, but there's really no, I don't think there's a real strong feeling. I can't really locate somebody that says, if there were nothing wrong with the dam, we'd get rid of it anyways because we don't like the dam. There's nobody that really
Right, exactly.
feels that strongly
Right.
that it causes fishery problems. So it's going to come down to, and what's hard is, I think the state appears, but they whoever is involved is only saying so much, so what's being sort of it's almost a subplot, it seems to me, if you chat with people that feel strongly about the issue, they don't like the whole methodology of the 100-year flood, how that was determined. And I don't know how, I think people that hope the dam can remain are hoping some of those things can be either challenged or it just won't sustain. And I don't know how realistic that is. So it's hard to know how we can get involved in that process right now. I think it would be nice if everybody were going to come to some kind of a resolution, but I think they're, the dam committee now, we appointed somebody, I can't remember the person's name, but there's a new member on the dam committee. It seems like that's where it's going to be the action.
That's the forum for it.
That's the forum for it, and I think it's just, to me, it's just a matter of, can you come to a resolution that, I think even the town would spend some money if somebody came back and said, here is a way that you can keep the dam, I suspect. But if they can't keep the dam, if there isn't a way to do that, and I can't imagine we'd want to spend a huge amount of money to keep a very minimal dam. That I can't imagine, but, does anybody else have any comments on that? That's what it looks like to me.
I guess it seems to me like maybe the need right now is not so much education about what would happen if the dam went away or if the dam stayed. We kind of know what the status quo is, but there seems to be a need for additional education about the current status of the dam in terms of its safety and so forth. Like, that message hasn't necessarily gotten across. So if there were to be an educational session, which seems like there might be a need for it, that's what I think it might be better focused on. However, if the fundamental problem is there's a camp that believes the science of the recalculated 100-year floods and there's a camp that doesn't, it's unlikely that you're going to move people between camps, in which case it might not be useful. But I suspect there's a larger public out there that still just doesn't maybe know the details of why it's even happening, in which case it might be useful. I don't know.
I can see why that might be useful, but I'm not sure that a forum kind of put on by the Conservation Commission would be the place for it, because I think it would draw just heated argument as opposed to open-minded, this is the story.
I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
I think you're right on that.
Since
So
I've been to
in
these
other words,
meetings.
Yeah, I don't even know that would be something that we would be even interested in conveying as to reasons for anything. I think that wouldn't it be more of an education on this is what's happened to areas where dams have been removed. This is how it's regenerated. This is what it looked like when it was flooded. This is what it looked like after. Here's the wildlife potential. It's not like it's good or bad.
Right.
This is what happened. And I don't think a lot of people really understand what would happen if the dam was removed.
Yeah, that's true.
And have a insight, maybe a lot of people don't really care, but how nature's going to reclaim the riverbed. But to me that would be the interesting educational part. Whether you're for or against it,
Right.
at least if it does happen, you'll know what to expect.
Yeah, but I kind of think you're right that whether it would be a good idea, this is setting that aside. I think for the dam committee, if they were to put some time into the next time they had a
Yeah.
public hearing, going through a review
Yeah,
of
yeah.
here is how we got here, and because I think what we tend to have is, you're getting people that are saying, somebody might say something about it's not so bad if the dam goes, and nobody wants to hear that, and other people are focused on whether 108 is going to make the problem worse. But I've been to quite a few of the hearings and haven't heard a good defense of using the new 100-year estimate, that methodologies. Nobody's really explained that, and I think to have somebody up there that would defend that would probably, they should put on their armor for the evening and be all toughened up, but it's probably a good exercise to do, because I still think part of what this may be about, I'm not guaranteed, but if in the end there is no way to keep the dam down, you want to make sure that people understand the fairness of the process and that it's not. I think the temptation to say it's a capricious bureaucracy that's heavy-handed and state mandates and all of the normal thing, and I think so nobody really wants to speak up. But I think it's good to put it out there. But it doesn't seem to be because I think the disconnect is that you get when you have the committee meetings now, the people from the project that have been gathering data or tell you, well, here's what's going to happen here, here's what's going to happen here, but none of that is terribly related to how could we possibly keep the dam, which is what everybody that's there is interested in hearing about, and how you bridge that is, I think, gets back to the assumptions, I guess. I think that's probably. But it's not. It's mostly that dam committee's challenge. But because I asked one of the members, one of the people there were that have been active and are at those members, and and I was expecting him to say, well, here we're in this process or in that process, but it really was. It was almost seemed like time buying to me, that they just let it go on for a while, So.
I'm sorry. What part of what is what process or?
Well, the question was, are you going to go back to the state, and do you have some formal process to try to come up to the point where you could say this is how the dam could be kept?
Oh, so you're talking about not the dam committee process, but the alternative process.
That informal, which came to the town. Remember, the town council did say, anybody wants to come up with a solution that involves keeping the dam.
Yeah.
We're in favor of your doing that. Please do. And so I asked one of the people that have been very associated with that. How is that being approached? And I think they're mostly attacking methodology still at that point. There's no way there's not a real logical step that will get to you a solid proposal that says here is how the dam may be kept.
The town's not waiting for that, right? Is the town proceeding as?
I think the process is still that they're in the they're going through the study process. That there are going to be hearings in the spring. They're going to add a couple of months to that. All of that will continue. When we get to the end of that, I don't know what happens next. I don't know how forcefully the state would push on this. What are you going to do? How patient they are on that? And,
I mean, when you read the back and forth, you realize that this has been going on since I think the first one might have been 2008. The state came to us saying there was an issue. So there is a question about when they may start being like, okay, time to get on it. So yeah.
There definitely is, right? Didn't they say they have to see action and progress type?
Yeah.
Towards, or else we get fined, something like that.
Yeah, although I don't think we're at the point where there's, but maybe it's because we've stayed engaged in this study process.
That's usually what they say. Is if you show us like progress moving towards a solution, then.
Right. So I think it comes back to it's sort of the interest group that would like the dam to stay. My sense is that this is their opportune time to move forward with something, and I don't know if they're doing that yet. They haven't really revealed much of what their plan is around that. And I guess what we're saying, and as I said before, one of them said, well, he's not convinced that anything will happen, but maybe that would be part of an information too, here's where the assumptions are, and here is kind of when we will have to do something. Because even I've heard members of the council say this will take years to resolve, and I don't know what the truth is of that.
Are there ecologists and whatnot that are in the audience that stand up and say, this dam should be removed because of this, that, and the other, or is it just the science of the engineering and whatnot behind the actual dam itself, and that's the only thing that's pushing towards removal, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that anything's pushing toward removal.
No,
I would
no,
say that, I mean, even...
That's what the studies say. I don't mean pushing towards it, but that's, that's what they reveal, that there's not much of a solution.
There's not a way to keep the dam
that's what I'm
that meets
saying.
the requirements.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
That has not been
So
identified.
Are there people that stand up and say this should be removed because of these
Well, right now the
reasons?
dam has a fish ladder, and the dam fish ladder is doing very well at allowing certain species to go up. I remember it helps one and it's not helping another so much, and I don't remember the specific species, so I'm not gonna try to remember which one's which. But so there is a mechanism for these fish that utilize these upstream areas to spawn and to get back in there. So it's not as if it's a total ecological block. And so my point is there that I don't think anyone is like, you know, the ecological detriments of having the dam are so strong that you must remove it, because there is some movement back and forth. But there is interest, you know. There are people who have been advising the committee who are on Fish and Game and who can speak to some of those the patterns of the fish migrations and whatnot. I wouldn't say that they're pushing one way or another, but they are involved.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think there was a guy there who's from Massachusetts that I spoke to, and that's what he does. That's his job. And so to help with that. And we had a conversation. He more or less agreed that, this is not a case where there is huge ecological damage from the dam. It's the fishway works. If you took it out, it's not clear whether you might create a barrier, because upstream of there may be something that fish couldn't get around as easily now, as they can the fishway. So it's not clear that there's a big ecological boon in this place. There just happens to be funding available because in general they made funds available to remove old dams, and so.
I was just curious if the meetings I haven't been to any, if they were pretty much one-sided,
There's
don't remove the dam, or if there are actually people there that are standing up to speak and say that this is good for these reasons.
No, I can say that no one is standing up. No one dares to stand up and say anything like that, I should say.
It would be like getting to the school board meeting and saying, well, that school looks a little expensive, That's what it would feel like.
Yeah. So I guess kind of what I'm getting at is no one is learning about
Some
ecological effects, detriments, or benefits.
I think there was,
Yeah.
somebody did speak up, because there was a certain individual that was always talking about the scourge of the killer lampreys going up through if we took the dam out, and somebody corrected them. The person from the fishery said, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And so there have been some correction of misstatements.
Yeah, I mean that's the only reason why I think that, like, maybe not by us, but maybe by the dam committee, because it's their forum, like you're saying, Dale. Where you actually have people that come in and say, there are people out there that will probably say it's better to keep the dam, and there are probably people out there that say it's better to remove it. It doesn't have to be a one-sided ecological discussion, but
But I see. I feel like
people. It's not even going to matter.
Nobody really.
No one
I don't
cares.
think really feels somebody. I mean, I think people do agree that it wouldn't be all bad to take out the dam, but I don't think anybody feels really strongly that they would like to see the dam go if that was all the only thing.
Right.
So I think the thing that would be useful if the dam committee was doing would be to, first of all, determine, are we is this a process that we have to figure out, and I guess we are, but I'm not sure everybody's convinced of that, and how long, what the time frame is. or else it will just continue on as it is, and at some point we'll be up against a rock, and then we'll have to figure it out. I'm not sure how that plays out, but that's been my observation. Is that sort of this?
Yeah, I think there is probably, well, it's hard because we call it the dam committee, but technically it's the committee that has been put together to oversee the process of the dam feasibility study. So it's not even on that wider scope. It's on a much narrower scope, and so maybe there needs to be I don't know if that committee is going to take on the responsibility for organizing everyone. It doesn't, as it stands now, that's not the scope of that committee. So it would be nice to have that kind of overarching where you bring all these people together and have these discussions and figure out this process and that process. But I guess that's
I think it really would be a good idea for all the information to be out there sometime. So I don't know. Well, maybe you and I should go talk to Diane sometime or something.
It doesn't necessarily need to be sponsored by any group in particular either, does it? I mean, it could just be a forum that happens.
I mean,
at
the only thing that
hall.
I mean, yes, I was gonna say the only, from my experience, every single meeting that we've had, that even if we have a specific goal in mind, becomes a forum.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes emotional, and I don't know if there's a way to separate that. It would be nice if there could, but yeah. Anyway.
I don't either.
Well, it could just depend on the format of the meeting too, I guess. I mean, there are probably ways to deal with that.
And I'd be interested in suggestions.
It may not be a meeting at this point. It may be that if there's certain things that can be known to be true about the process, it may be worth that the dam committee put a document about where we sit on the process and what is true and what isn't true.
Well,
Unless that's laid out in the report.
I was going to say the draft report does a really good job of telling the background, what the situation is, and
I put that down there that I.
Yeah, that's one of my notes too. Read the draft report. I will say though, do you know how long the draft report is?
Yeah, it's not that long. I mean, is that like?
If it's more than 3 pages,
Oh,
somebody should create a short version that's less than 3 pages.
Yes, it is more than 3 pages.
Because
It's
people
really,
like me
An executive
Okay,
summary.
don't have a lot of patience
I was
or
gonna
a
say,
lot of
it's
time.
pretty, it's not long-winded, but
Right,
I'm
but
not sure. Yeah,
but
okay.
a
Yeah.
super succinct version that references. I don't need
You need an
necessarily all the
executive summary.
details. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would prefer to get, here's the big picture. If I want to know about detail A, it's in appendix whatever. Okay, great. I can go look there if I want. But I can ignore it if I don't want to look.
I just have one more comment. I think in general, it's, one of the purposes of the Conservation Commission is to provide education regarding environmental issues. And I think that maybe now is not the exact time, but I don't think we should be afraid of being associated with some sort of educational format related to the dam and the ecology of it in the future. And we don't have to, take a stand one way or the other. So, I mean, I guess it seems like you were going down that road a little bit, and I
So
agree
people
with that.
blindly going into the future.
Yeah, and there might be
Educate them a
some,
little bit, and they might learn a little more about their
Well,
own
it would
backyard
provide
and
some
Yeah.
process.
balance to this discussion, because a lot of what you're getting now is if, somebody would show up and say, look how ugly it was when the dam was drawn down. That's our future
Right.
unless we save
People
it.
say that,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right,
It's,
so
like it's
I
not going to be
think
a
that
mud flat forever.
you might actually assuage some concerns for some people. Maybe it's a
Right.
minority of people, but that
Yeah.
could be a helpful process.
People usually stand up against things they don't know or understand
Right.
Yeah.
if they feel they're gonna impact them. Some people may understand it perfectly clear and still not want it, but
Right.
I mean,
it's
it-
it
you know,
never, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people would prefer to have a pond stay there, and I have absolutely no problem with that if we can. But if we can't, then people ought to realize that this is not it's not like a blight on the landscape
Right.
to have a river, natural
A
river.
naturally
running.
flowing river?
Exactly.
That there will be vegetation and
Right.
so forth, yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying, there are advocates on both sides that
Right.
are scientists, I'm sure, and that's what panel discussions are about. You get people, sometimes you get people with differing opinions and equally valid points in there. Or it's just about removal.
So, that comes back to the question of the action item. Should this remain something on the action item? You know, should I try to move forward with this? I'm not convinced that the commission is, has a stance about how we should move forward, or whether or not, you know, whether or not we should, or have an
Yeah,
idea of
we're-
what this
we're-
forum would take place, and is it something we wanna support or try to be involved in?
I
or-
think I think that the action item is to continue exploratory discussions. Is that right?
Yeah,
With Alan,
I guess
you
so.
mean?
Yeah, I could.
Because I don't think we have clearly laid out that we want to jump into a public forum
Okay.
yet, so but I think
All right.
meeting with Ellen would be
Subject matter and
I would think
structure
with
and
Diane.
I would think it would at least be a forum that was if
co-sponsored.
co-sponsored, if not sponsored by the dam committee, and maybe co-sponsored with some input and help from the conservation commission, maybe.
Yeah, but I think the
subject
thing you've
matter.
gotta look at is that, you know,
The dam committee
there's a
is what that
process
negative.
that the study committee is going to be going through over the next few months, so they'll have, so I think it should be discussed with the dam and the dam committee and Diane about when would, you know, how does this
When would it
fit?
be appropriate to
Yeah.
try and
When-
provide education?
Right, and what could be put out there in a sort of, you know, is there a place to put some unassailable facts type of thing out there? Not, and I would not put in that category anything about why having a dam out is so not bad or anything. I don't think you even have to do that, or it's just really what lays out what the town, you know, what our options are and where we are in the process. And, because I do feel that there continues to be this sort of disconnect where people are interpreting things, and maybe there are multiple.
I think people do a cost-benefit analysis in their own head, and they don't have the whole story. They don't have enough information to do a proper analysis of it, and I'm sure I don't either, you know? So it's hard. I feel like it's never too, personally, it's just my opinion that I never think
Well, I
it's
think
too
it's
early to give
complicated
people
too.
the
Most of the waterfront, I mean, if you were doing a cost benefit analysis, some of the things that comes in is what's the value of the waterfront property? How much does that, you know, how much does the town realize from the higher valuations on waterfront property? But, what is it, 2/3 or more, 3/4 or more of the shorefront is in Durham. And Durham is, my understanding, and not through unofficial sources, Durham made it clear that Newmarket's on their own, that so even though they may realize that extra, you know, they're.
But depending on who owns the rights to the land under the flowage, it could be owned by the town. Whoever had the rights in the dam has the rights to the flowage.
They may still have
Potentially.
waterfront, but it's a different
And if
kind of water.
if the abutting owners don't own that land, then whoever owns the flowage rights presumably owns that land. And if that's the town could always deed the land back to the waterfront owners that abut it, instead of holding it.
Right. But.
I mean, there's all sorts of
I
things
think
that
those
play
will be
into that
interesting.
process.
I still think that until people
it's-
understand that.
That's what I'm saying, there's so many things out there like that
Yeah.
people get all fired up about it, but it might be for naught, because there might be a reasonable solution, and if they don't understand what those possibilities are.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
but in the end, I think where the time for that would come in, to me, is if we get to the point where there is not a solution that allows you to keep the dam. If there's a solution that allows you to keep the dam, but it's horrendously expensive, then you start doing the cost-benefit analysis. But if nobody, you've saved a lot of effort if nobody can come up with a way that will pass muster to keep it. If it can't be done, then, you know, then what your educational is about is how do we feel good about this? How do we, you know, be glad for what we'll be getting out of the process? probably, I talked to Diane about it. She invited me to be on the dam committee, and I wasn't sure I want to do that, but we could go have a conversation.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, if we can be involved in something that helps educate, we the Conservation Commission, if we can be involved in something that helps educate the public, I think that's a good thing. I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I would support that.
Because the Conservation Commission isn't only set up to conserve natural resources of the town, but also historical aspects of the town as well, right?
I don't know about that, actually.
Yeah,
Well, if
I'm
we
not sure
spend
about
money
that.
through LCHIP, that's what we do.
Yeah,
LCHIP
but
money
it's
is,
land
Yeah, that was really the town
conservation
though.
and historic something, isn't it?
yeah, I thought it was historic cultural uses and stuff like that.
I don't know, but I
But it was
would be
actually,
interested to hear if that
it
were
was
true.
actually the town that applied for the LCHIP grants,
Right.
not the
Not the
Conservation
Conservation
Commission,
Commission.
for what it's worth.
Okay.
Oh, you're in
So-
charge of, oh, sorry.
Well, yeah, so I guess I would just say, yeah, I mean, I think it kind of stays on the action item list, and
Okay.
Maybe you also
Waits.
need to talk to the dam committee and see, I know it's a restricted purpose, but you can bring up the idea and maybe it's time for it to morph into educational or something else spins off or something.
yeah,
That's one of the avenues you could explore
Sure.
in your free time.
Yes.
Okay, so next item on the action item list was pontoon boat rental in May. Bruce was looking into that. Think about amending the scholarship application requirements was another one. This one we're actually getting closer to is post the May 25th private ceremony at Shanda Park. The turtle crossing signs.
Yeah, just have a quick comment about that. Mike Marchand from New Hampshire Fish and Game was emailing again. I think you guys all knew that.
Yep.
And he said that they would like to try to use Newmarket as like a case town with their new turtle crossing signs for the state for Blandings turtles. And just that he'll get back to us sometime in the early spring to talk about meeting and figuring out where our signs overlap or where they could put theirs versus ours and that kind of thing.
Yeah, good. I'm surprised there's, I'm not sure there will be too much overlap, I guess.
But yeah, they said Bay Road they were interested in.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that.
But they didn't have a specific, like, we had a specific place we were gonna put them.
Right.
They weren't that specific, so.
Right, yeah, at least my understanding is most of the Blandings turtles that have been found in this area were more on Dame Road,
Okay.
or in that,
Or
in that sort of corridor.
near, down near Wigan, like Tuttle
Or,
Swamp
right,
area.
down in the Tuttle Swamp area.
And that's the other area
Yeah.
that they're interested in.
Okay, good. Easement boundaries at new routes, we already talked about that one. I assume no one's gotten to Concord yet related to the prime wetland for Follett's Brook. Identify when land has changed from current use for tax purposes. I know nothing's happened there. Finishing the connector trail at Piscassic River, Loisel. That'll be good to do once the snow melts out a little bit. But people are, yeah, as Jeff said, people are using it already. Is it marked?
Nope.
Jeff? Okay.
There's a couple of pieces of orange flagging that someone put there.
Okay,
But that was not put there by us, but it's
Okay.
well used. I think almost every time whoever walks it a lot goes out there,
yeah, I mean, once it gets walked, and when there's snow cover, once somebody goes that way, it's pretty obvious, so, yeah. Well, that's good. Amend the Wigan Farm management plan to move the mowing to after the 15th of September. And the snowmobile bridge out at Wigan Farm. That one we're gonna have to do when there's no snow. Move it to somewhere so that when there is snow, we can actually get it out of there.
Yeah, suspended in
It's-
the air briefly.
Well,
until the
it's kind of a
snowfall's.
two-step process.
Move
Yes.
it across the pond.
You have to keep it from getting buried and frozen into the ground until the ground is frozen
Frozen.
and buried in the
Right.
snow.
Yeah, then we can drag it out of there.
What's that schedule look like again?
I'd like to know.
It goes way out. Yeah. Okay, does anyone have anything else? Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Dale. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Next meeting will be March 13th, 7 o'clock.